Oh my God, we are live. Alex Donno alongside Jerry Mancini. This is what I'm calling an emergency episode of the Calcio Connection. This is also going to double as my daily dose of Inter episode for today on the Patreon. I'm going to keep this one free on the Patreon page because obviously this is going live to anybody on Twitter and on our YouTube channel and on our Twitch channel. I hope people are watching our Twitch channel. So, Jerry, things have really escalated over the last 48 hours. And, I don't think it's like officially official, but it's done. I mean, Romelu Lukaku is heading to Chelsea for roughly 130 million euro transfer fee. I saw some reports saying 128 million euros. And it's like, damn it, we can't even squeeze out the extra 2 million euros. So he's on his way to. Yeah. So, and listen, outside of the obvious, I'll explain why this is so upsetting to me and to so many Interisti out there. Of course, it goes without saying, losing a player who is as important as Lukaku and has been as valuable as he's been the last 2 years in an Inter shirt, no matter what the situation, that always sucks. Like, that's always difficult to see that guy go, even on what is a really high transfer fee. Like, Inter are, on paper, they're making a really good profit for this transfer fee, but under any circumstances, losing Lukaku is very, very difficult. What makes it more difficult, a couple of major factors here. The first thing that's really annoying is, it's so late in the transfer window now. I mean, 20 days until Inter's first Serie A match. So it's so late in the transfer window. This really throws the team for a loop. You have less time to prepare, to get his replacement in and to kind of work on your tactics post Lukaku. And Jerry, this also makes it that much tougher to bring in a suitable replacement, right? Because not only do you have very little time to get, the Lukaku replacement signed, but teams know how desperate Inter are, right? So whoever you're going to sign him with, knowing you need to get this done within a matter of days, you have less bargaining power, less negotiating power. And, I see some names out there as potential incomings. One of them who I think is the most likely candidate to come in, and I'm just not a fan of this, Jerry, is Duvan Zapata from Atalanta. Like, it's not to say he's a terrible player, but I don't think this is a good investment. Like, the idea of paying 30 or probably 40 million for Duvan Zapata, who I think Marotta probably looks at as, this is a forward with similar characteristics to Lukaku. Like, you can call him a very poor man's Romelu Lukaku. So maybe the thinking is we bring in Duvan Zapata. He can hold up. We don't have to change our tactics too much to suit this player. But I really don't like investing that big of a transfer fee in this situation in a 31-year-old, right? I mean, Jerry, if you're making this gigantic transfer fee and I no longer consider my Inter to be a Scudetto contender. Like, I don't. And obviously, when we did our predictions episode a couple of weeks ago, this was obviously long before I had any idea Lukaku could go. My prediction was Juve first place, Inter second place. Now I'm thinking maybe not even qualifying for Champions League, like fighting for a Europa League spot. I think losing Lukaku this late is that big of a blow here. If my squad is already less competitive, I might as well, if I'm going to invest a big transfer fee, get me someone like Dusan Vlahovic, like get me someone who's in his early 20s and is a great investment for the future. I'm not even opposed to signing Moise Kean. Not that I like dealing with Mino Raiola, but at least you're talking about investments of players that are in their early 20s. If you invest right now in a 31-year-old Duvan Zapata, he may have a productive season or two. And then after that, you're dealing with another Rajan Angolan situation where you're like loaning a 33, 34-year-old to Cagliari and paying 2/3 of his wages. I don't think that's a good investment.
I don't think the transfer market shit. I don't think transfer market is it's like late or anything for Inter. Look at Lazio. They're still having to do business too. 20 days is not a lot. For the transfer market itself, it's not a bad timing still. The timing is bad for teams who want to have their squad ready in order to implement their tactics and how they want to do everything. I think that's where it becomes kind of a downfall. Inter's not desperate because they still have Lautaro Martinez up front. It all depends on how they kind of approach this now. it's a different transfer market too. You got to remember, with the pandemic, teams not being able to make money off ticket sales, it's going to be a long approach. So even if Lukaku was sold a month ago, say, okay, they'd still be in the same situation where they'll have to try to find someone who's willing to match their price. And that has been the issue with Lazio, where there's not enough buyers, and there's a lot of sellers, and that hurts every team. Zapata, I'm surprised a lot of people are really opposed against a Zapata signing. I guess if you can get him for 2 years, that's fine, but you don't want a guy, I guess, until 35 years old. But that's to say, what about Immobile, who's 31 years old, and he's signed up until 35 as well? So it's a similar thing where who's to know how he does as he progresses. I like what Mario's saying. I would go after Belotti as well. I think he would be a good signing. 20, he's 28, right?
Yeah,
he's 28. He's in his prime.
So, yeah,
comes in now. That's a good shout. I don't see Vlahovic leaving Fiorentina this summer. I definitely see him leaving next summer, and that can be a real possibility for Inter, where if fans are back into the stadium, clubs will start to have more money. We'll see what Inter's long-term plan is, we'll say, or ambition of what the club is going to be next summer. But I don't see Moise Kean coming to Inter. That's a big task. You're asking a very young guy who's very inexperienced to come in and fill in the shoes of Lukaku. And is Moise Kean even a similar player like Lukaku? That's another thing people have to remember, is that, and I say Mario has a good point there. Belotti is similar to Lukaku. Vlahovic is similar to Lukaku. I see those kind of players coming in to replace Lukaku. Whereas Joaquin Correa, a guy like Moise Kean, will probably replace Lautaro Martinez because they're kind of similar in the way they play. So, and we'll see what the ownership does too, because we don't even know what the heck is this, what the financial matter is here, because we don't know. Yeah. Everybody assumes that they know how much is owed and everything, but if you're making a second sale, there's a little concern here, because there's a lot of debt.
Jerry, I mean, I feel like and I could say this as an Interista, and I follow these headlines and these stories very closely. We were lied to. Like, we were absolutely lied to from the get-go. Or the other possibility is they're just making up shit as they go along, okay? So they're either selling Lukaku because there was an extra financial necessity that they've been lying about for the past 2 months, or they are selling Lukaku because they got so overwhelmed by greed that they saw the opportunity to make 130 million, and they said, you know what? No matter how important this guy is for our branding off the pitch and our product on the pitch, we can't pass up 130 million. And I know what some people are thinking, okay? It is a gigantic offer, and everyone has a price, okay? But why I partly feel like they're making all this stuff up as they go along is this whole narrative that they weaved after the season was over. And this is why Conte didn't want to continue, but they promised we only need to make one big sale to balance the books. And they made the Achraf Hakimi sale like immediately. Blink and you missed it. Like, they made that sale so quickly. So then if there was any chance they were going to go and sell Lukaku as well for a gigantic profit, then why did you even sell Hakimi in the first place, right? I mean, you should have sold Lukaku from day one. And they're making a much bigger financial profit from Lukaku than they did from Achraf Hakimi, who they bought for 40 million and sold for 70 million 1 year later. Lukaku they bought for, I don't know what the exact figure was, around 65, 70, and then 2 years later they sell him for 130. That is a much bigger profit, when you factor in amortization and that kind of stuff. So if you only needed to make one big sale, then why did you sell Hakimi in the first place if you were going to sell Lukaku? And yeah, Chelsea's offers did get bigger and bigger and bigger until they hit 130, and then Inter decided they've made us an offer we can't refuse, Godfather style. That's apparently what Inter decided. But they had to have given Chelsea some kind of an indication. Yeah, go ahead and keep making bids. Like, you know what? Oh, he's untouchable for 100 million, but wink, wink. If you come back with a little more, maybe he's not untouchable anymore, because Lukaku, despite the fact, and his wages are growing tremendously at Chelsea. Like Chelsea, I've seen a figure like 15 million euros per season, just astronomical, like astronomical. And yet, despite how much Chelsea are paying him, Lukaku was still content to play at Inter for less money, right? Because he loves the club. I think he loves the fans. I think he feels rightfully so that his characteristics are even better for Serie A than they are for Premier League. I think he can do very well at Chelsea, but I think his characteristics suited Premier League and suited a 3-5-2 formation probably more than they suit Premier League. So he was more than happy to stay at Inter and stay at Serie A. So I believe that he was indirectly pushed out. Like if it was strictly up to Lukaku, people can bring up the will of the player and, he did decide to take the offer. No, Lukaku was telling people for months he was happy at Inter. He had great conversations with Inzaghi. When Simone came in, he decided tactically, I can fit here still, even after Conte. Like Lukaku was more than happy to stay. It was Suning who decided they wanted to hear more offers, and they pushed him out the door. So this, to me, it's like I've been a little bit out of pocket today. So I haven't been, and I'm in Miami, Florida. So I don't know what the hell is happening in Milano right now. If there are Inter Ultras, like storming the facilities and storming I don't know what's going on right now.
They did.
Are they?
Do not sell. Do not sell Lukaku. I think they have to. Maybe Muriel knows. He's in the chat right now. He probably knows better than I do. But I think they had to stop practicing today because it got pretty violent with the fans.
I don't advocate violence, but I do advocate peaceful demonstration. So anybody, I don't know if anybody from Milano is listening to us right now. If you want to go out there and bring your signs and sing and chant and let ownership know you do not approve, do it, but do it in a peaceful fashion. I do not want to see or hear about any violence going on there because that's not cool.
And to answer our buddies here, our good friend on the Rafa rant, boy, does this change the top four discussion? I actually do think it does now.
Yeah,
I was content on them. It all depends who they sign as a number 9. And you know what the sad part is? You can say it they need more time. It's bad timing, but they haven't even got the wingback situation replaced yet.
That's true.
So
That's a good point.
They haven't replaced Hakimi yet. This team, I thought Lotito was fucking up in years, but you know what? Like I saw an earlier comment about can't trust Suning. I think you can't trust any owner, not just Suning. All owners you can't trust because at the end of the day, they treat it as a business. There are a handful that actually do care about the history, the heritage, and everything. Like you got De Laurentiis, you got Lotito, for example. Those are two prime examples of who live in the past and still care about the financial state of their club. Yes, don't get me wrong, they both want to make money, absolutely, but they also look at the long term about like what the state of the club is. They want to make sure that they don't run into a situation that Inter are in. Not all, I'm saying, but there are a few still around where they just care about what the state of the club is. And man, I don't know what to expect for Inter moving forward. The rumors are gonna go crazy. The journalists have something to write about. I guess that's 100%. And I don't know, man. Like Inter went from and you know what? On a side topic, I am Inter. Could have probably been the worst thing they ever invented in the history of the club because I got so much ready to go. I am imploding. For Lukaku, I am free because he's free from a freaking dumpster fire right now, a massive dumpster fire. Like Beppe Marotta's gone. By next summer, I agree with fucking.
He just signed a 2-year extension.
He's gone, man. He'll accept the part ways and see you later, and he'll save them $7 million, whatever the heck he's making. Just like thing did Conte. And you know what? I saw Nima tweeting about it. If Zapata comes in, is that a Beppe Marotta kind of signing? Because he's talking about a plan, the future. Where do we go from here? No, it's not Beppe Marotta's fault. Beppe's fault. I absolutely agree with you. But I'm saying, do you think he wants to stay around these owners that just don't give a fuck anymore. And I get their money's tied up in whatever the heck that whole China crap thing is, which
government restrictions.
Yeah,
and all that.
I don't even want to get into that.
Well, let me get into something real quick. Here's what I'm most angry at Suning for is having the opportunity to sell the club back in the spring and not doing it, because they do have legitimate financial troubles. A lot of it comes, due to COVID and all the ripple effects of COVID, because all the ripple effects of COVID have caused the Chinese government. And remember, Chinese businesses do not operate with autonomy. Chinese businesses are essentially branches of the government. So the government can tell you where and when and how to invest your money. And they have restricted foreign investment. So Suning's hands are tied and the debt has continued to mount. So they should have sold the club when they had an opportunity to do so. That's the primary source of my anger. Instead, they decided, no, we want to hold on to this because it's become a vanity project for us. And we think we can still print money with this vanity project. And so, when I've seen some people in the chat, and I see a lot of people on social media basically say that, they created this Ponzi scheme just to take Juve's title away, where they, invested all this fake money to buy the Lukakus and the Barellas and everything in Conte. It's a lot more complicated than that. I wish it were that simple. They used to have a project. At the time when they were investing all of that money, I believe at that time, they were creating what very well could have been a sustainable business model. Revisionist history has caused people to say, oh, look, they just spent a bunch of money they didn't have to buy a fake championship and to take a title away from Juve. The thing was, they had the money at that time. I mean, soon, before China changed their government policies and they started hemorrhaging money with all this stuff, Suning was a global powerhouse business at that point. The project before all of this took a U-turn, I believe could have been sustainable. And I say could have been because I'm not an expert, but I do study these situations with Inter very closely. But all of it was turned on its head after the pandemic and after the Chinese restrictions. And Suning, which used to be a powerhouse retail business, is now, in massive amounts of debt. And the debt is, it's a newer problem that's happened over the last couple of years. So it's not that they were spending money that they didn't have. They had the money at the time, but the problem was you put that on the credit card and then all of a sudden so much of your revenue disappears. That's when the debt creeps in. So that's the financial trouble that has been brought to them.
Well, here's the other problem. So they make 130 on Lukaku. They owe 20 or 30 million to Manchester United right off the bat because of a loan or something when they purchased him from United. I don't know the exact terms and all that, but there's even money that's owed for the previous deal of Lukaku. So they're not even getting the full 130 million. And like everyone's saying, there's so much wages and fees, transfer fees, and everything that's so tied up in this club that they're not making enough money to reinvest into players. It's like they're just 5 steps back, and all these sales are trying to get them back to the starting line. It's really bad, man. It's just, what? Some people maybe are right. Maybe they went all in to win one Scudetto to end Juve's reign, and now they're suffering for 10 years. And Joe Fischetti from Forza Napoli podcast, who I was talking to on the phone today, he said to me, would you win a Scudetto for 10 bad years? And at first I thought, yeah, maybe I would, because what it's like to win a Scudetto. But then after, I think, what is the point of winning a Scudetto?
I disagree, and I think I can speak on this with authority because it literally just fucking happened to me. And I wouldn't trade in that one Scudetto for being third place for 5 straight years, because that's what people consider a project. We're we have a project, we're competing for Champions League spots for a whole cycle, 5 years. I think I'd rather win a Scudetto. For as miserable as I am right now, I wouldn't trade the 19th Scudetto.
I don't know, man. I agree. Being a Lazio fan, I guess it was the same situation where look at Lazio. They won in 1999, 2000. Right after that, what happened to Lazio? They haven't been in still catching up on debts and trying to get the club back to normal. They're still paying off loan payments and all that since Lotito took over the club. Do you want 10 years of misery and maybe your club in a situation where it can go bankrupt? Look what you don't know what it can happen. It's hard, man. Yeah, it's a difficult situation to be in. Don't get me wrong. There are clubs who've never won a Scudetto and would love to be in that situation just to hold one. What I don't like is that Inter never really got to enjoy it. They never. After 2 days, it was like.
Yeah, after like a week,
you know what I mean?
Conte was leaving. Yeah,
it's like there wasn't any sense of pride to this Scudetto. It's so sad because Inter has they went so bad for 10 years, not winning anything. Who knows how long? I think it was 2011. That was the last time they won something. And then finally they go through a stretch and they finally win and they think there's something that's about to happen. So you sacrifice 10 years to win one, to sacrifice another 10 years. It's like it's all going right back to the beginning again.
Yeah, but but the thing is, I go back to my original point was at the time when they made their biggest investments. That was 2019 when they signed Conte and when they purchased Lukaku and Barella. Like, my point is, they weren't knowingly selling their soul. Like, they could not predict the pandemic and they couldn't predict the Chinese government crackdown. So I get what you're saying, but I feel like the whole argument is moot because everybody's saying this. It's all revisionist history. It's like, oh, well, clearly they just spent a bunch of money they didn't have to win one championship. Like, oh, that may be the way that it worked out, but that's not the intention of it, because as soon as the pandemic came about and they realized they have tremendous amount of debts, what investment did they make after that? Because they bought Hakimi before the pandemic started. And then after the pandemic came about, that's when they realized all we can afford now are Kolarov and Vidal. So, like, the investment stopped after that. So it's like they didn't knowingly buy something they couldn't afford. They bought something they thought they could afford at the time, and they could not predict the revenue going off a cliff right when it did.
No, you're right. You can't foresee the future, absolutely, but you can foresee like your decisions during a pandemic and how it's going to like ripple effect. That's the annoying part, is that when the pandemic happened, when the Chinese money was clogged up, they just made one bad decision after another bad decision, taking on loans and infusing money where they knew they weren't gonna like able to pay back. You know what I mean? Like, they just did so many bad decisions as soon as the pandemic hit. So I think that's where fans are very annoyed, where they could have sold the club and give it to somebody more reliable. Like the lies, the annoying lies one after another to say that I think that's where the frustration is, in that Hakimi signed during the COVID era.
No, it was before they lost revenue, because they signed, like, Hakimi officially arrived in the summer, but they got the deal done in like the first week of April. So that was before they lost the pandemic revenue. It was when they announced it, they agreed to the deal, and then the pandemic hit.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, you don't plan for this, but I think you can also plan when it does take effect and what what your decisions are going to lead to. These guys are not stupid. Like, at the end of the day, Suning, earlier I saw a comment that Suning's the devil, basically. And
I won't argue it. Not today.
And it seems like that because of what he's been able to do. The simple solution to all this: sell the stupid club. Well, not stupid club. Sorry, sell the club.
Oh, I understand what you mean. Yeah,
just sell the club. That is the solution to everything. Now, Suning is so dug in. This is Milan. This is Milan 2.0, where Elliott took over the club and they're investing. Everything went to shits. I don't know. I don't remember the whole history. You probably know better than me. But basically, I see Inter slowly going to Milan's route, where they were set back for so many. Yeah, the Oak Tree. That's it.
We need Oak Tree to step in.
Well, definitely Milan 2.0. Like, I just see that this is all gonna happen. Someone's gonna take over, like an investment company like Elliott, with their own freaking purpose, and then they're gonna come in like, and I know that this is a off topic. I'm gonna give full credit to Milan this summer transfer market because while everyone is dying, okay, they are somehow figuring it out. Like they are spending money, keeping their core players, and building towards the future. So you gotta give respect to Milan. I know they haven't bought a key star name, $50 million player, but they really have come back to life and are getting that club back to where it had to be. Whereas Inter is going the opposite direction. That maybe not many people will agree with me about Milan. I know that they don't have that star player, but that's just a side topic, guys. I think the biggest question now is how does Inter recover? I think that's where you
give me Vlahovic. If Jerry, if they go out there and they spend a lot of money on old ass Duvan Zapata, who's not a terrible player, I'm not disparaging him. I just don't think he's a good investment. Like he is not a good investment. So if they sign Dusan Vlahovic, obviously that does not fill the Lukaku size hole in my heart. But at least then I can say, okay, you know what? That's at least the right move here. Like that's the right way to spend that money. Like it's the right way to spend, your profits from the Lukaku money. Get me? I think the guy's like 21 years old. I mean, yeah, that's the guy they need to sign.
Well, to answer Dan's question, the reason why Juve isn't spending a bunch this offseason is because they don't have the money to spend in the first place. If they had the money, I guarantee you they'd be spending like fucking crazy animals. But if they sell Demiral, then you'll start to see in Juve make that one big purchase, like a Locatelli. But you know what, man? These are all good comments. Like the question is when Suning sell? Like that guy can't show his face at the stadium next year. There's no way he shows up to a game.
And the funny thing is, like, I would think the club is now less valuable after selling Romelu Lukaku, right? Because for anyone who's going to buy the club from them, it's nice to know, hey, you've got a guy here who moves the needle globally, because there's no one else beyond Lukaku on that team who has that sort of universal appeal. I mean, listen, Italians and Italian Americans and Italo-Canadians like you, obviously we love a guy like Barella, but, do people in other continents care about Nicolo Barella? I mean, maybe he'll become that, but he's not a global brand. Lautaro Martinez is big in South America. Alexis Sanchez, assuming he's still going to be on the team, probably will be. He's big in South America. But like Romelu Lukaku was becoming a global icon, and like he was the face of the club. That was the guy selling the most shirts, right? That was the guy doing the most advertisements for it. That was the guy bringing the most new eyes to Inter. So I honestly believe the club is a little bit less valuable as a whole if Suning were to try to sell them anytime soon, because their biggest star is no longer on it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I also don't think Lukaku is the last to go. I think there's another. I think Lautaro Martinez is out the door next for some reason.
Well, I will say that this makes it, I think, 100 times more important to make sure he doesn't leave. Well, how that gets resolved, I don't know. Like, how is Lautaro going to approach it? Is Lautaro, because there are two ways he could look at it. He could say, I really need to take advantage of this situation because I've got more leverage now with Inter and I can be the face of this team now, right? He can look at it that way. Like, okay, now is the time where they need to give me a better contract and they need to make sure to hold on to me because I'm arguably the biggest star on the team now with Lukaku gone. Or maybe Lautaro says, you know what, Lukaku leaving, we're probably not going to win anything for the next couple of years. Maybe it's time for me to bounce. I don't know how he's going to approach it. I think at the end of the day, I think he wants to get paid. Like, I think he wants his contract terms. Whether or not Inter give it to him, I don't know.
I'm actually curious to know, like, I know that these players, they're going to go and they're going to play and do their job. But this has a ripple effect on players too. And a guy like Barella, who's 24 and one of the best midfielders in football. You got Bastoni, up and coming, one of the best center backs. These guys want to know what the future is. They want to be playing for a winner as well. Like, they're ambitious probably. Like, you're playing for a team who doesn't have a clear idea of what is going to happen moving forward. And the players are so in limbo, and I feel like this could start to cause an effect inside the dressing room. Like it's a very sensitive situation that they're in. Who's to say that now Barella wants to stay, who has been so close to Lukaku and built a good relationship? Who's to say that De Vrij wants to stay, or whoever it may be? Like, and I know what people are going to say, they're professionals, they're just going to continue to do their job and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that's fine. But when your team is a fucking dumpster fire and players are not even getting paid probably, who's to say that these guys are even getting paid at the moment? Because
supposedly the Oak Tree investment fixed that for temporarily. Okay. I don't know. We'll see if that carries over to this coming year.
I don't know the figures. I don't know what the investments are. Like, I love how people on Twitter, and I'm not saying the schmojo of us in this chat room where we just talk just for the sake of talking. I'm talking about experts who come out with figures where I love to know where they get these figures, because no team is going to disclose what they pay, what they owe, all that stuff. That's all confidential, and that has to be released by the club and has to be consented by them. Like, I just would love to know how this kind of affects the players, because I think a few players are going to want out now, man. I really do believe so.
Well, you know what? Like you know what? Honestly, and this is something. This is the last thing I want to touch on before I got to run. I honestly think it's even more likely, because like the most important thing for the players, for a lot of these guys, I think, is knowing they're going to get paid and paid on time. I don't know if that's the case or not. The guy that I really feel kind of bad for is your friend Simone Inzaghi, right? Because what was he really expecting when he took this job? At the time when he took the Inter job, he knew Hakimi was leaving, because that was public, because that's a big reason why Conte left, was he knew they were selling Hakimi, peace, I'm out. So Inzaghi knew about that one, but Inzaghi didn't know that they were going to sell Lukaku. So I wonder if Simone feels like he was sold a bad bill of goods here.
I don't feel bad for Simone Inzaghi. For the first time in my life, and I'm the biggest support Inzaghi and everything, I feel like this is karma that just hit him really bad, man. It's like, if it's true, the rumor is that he agreed to Lazio, and then the next day he just didn't show up, didn't sign his contract. Lotito didn't know where he was, goes to Inter, and don't get me wrong, he got a pay increase he deserved, 100%. But it's like the way he came about of it, it's like it slapped him now back in the
but didn't Lotito act like a dick making him wait that long for a new contract? I mean, that should have been given to him months ago. So I can see both sides of it, because I thought Lotito didn't treat Inzaghi with much respect for the months leading up to it.
Well, I read that he was offered 2 contracts, which he put aside. So during the offseason, Lotito said that he had offered 2 contracts. So I don't know. Again, only they know what happened. But the point is that the way he came about, if he was going to sign and the next day you jump. But you know what? Inzaghi knew what he was signing up to. You have to be stupid not to think that this was going to happen. You knew their situation. Like, you're telling me he went in blindsided, not knowing? Like, why did Conte leave in the first place? Like, you know how Conte is. It's all over the news about their financial situation, even when he signed with them. And all of a sudden, he's like acting like as if they lied to him. No, yeah, sure, they lied to him, but it's just the state of what the club is at, man. But you know what? This can really prove to many people of what I thought about Inzaghi at Lazio. I still think he's one of the best managers. Now it's time to really prove that he's an elite manager and he can take care of this club at such a bad state and a bad time. If there's one guy who can weather the storm and keep the dressing room intact, it is Simone Inzaghi.
If he gets him into top 4, it's a hell of a job. That's where I set the bar now. I mean, a month ago, I would have said, you got to compete for a Scudetto. Now, if he can get him into top 4, then that's a tremendous job by Simone.
I think he's the guy. He was the guy who kept Luis Alberto in check, even though the guy is a freaking walking time bomb. I don't think he had much to do with Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. And you know what? Just one thing off topic was that I have so much respect for Savic because he's never jumped ship from Lazio. I'm not saying Lukaku jumped ship, but like he's always turned down the bigger offers, the bigger fish to stay with Lazio because of what it meant to him. I don't know if Lukaku could have done that. Maybe he didn't, but seeing Harry Kane not showing up to practice because he wants to go to Man City and the greed of some of these players, it just gives me more and more respect for Savic of what he's been able to do in 6 seasons with Lazio. And he could have gone to something bigger, but he's one of the very few when he says he's committed to the team and I'm here for the team. I don't care if he were to leave next summer. I would respect him more. But if it's true that they pushed him out, it's sad because Lukaku was a kind of – you don't get too many players who love the team and play for the logo. But
and I truly believe, I mean, maybe push is a strong word, nudge, right? Because I'm sure at the end of the day, he's thrilled with the amount of money Chelsea are paying him, but I know for a fact he would have stayed at Inter if they didn't entertain this offer and accept this offer. So he gave his consent to it. He would have been happy to stay at Inter. We'll wrap it up on that note. By the way, this was like an emergency episode today. It was Jerry's idea, and I thank Jerry for that. It gave me the chance to vent a little bit and Jerry to vent a little bit, and great community with all the commenters. I'm glad we were able to do an episode early enough that the Europeans could chat with us, because usually we're on at night and it's harder for the people across the pond. But we are on again tonight because this was the emergency episode. We have the planned episode tonight, which will basically be a Scudetto celebration for our Juventini friends, because we have the Juventus season preview coming up tonight, a roundtable. I'm going to be probably a little bit depressed, so we'll see how that goes for me. But Jerry, who do we have on tonight? I know we got Joe Usello from Lowland Football. We got Cliff.
No, Joe Usello is not joining us.
He's not. The fuck?
No, he went to Hawaii. He's just coming back. He arrived this morning. Yeah, we have Cliff, Dom from Montreal, Lucci and Alberto from I believe from Vancouver.
Oh, it's a great cast, and Joe Cappuccino, right?
Yeah, Joe Cappuccino. So
dude.
We're going all out, man. Freaking no real offer for SMS from EPL Big Boys, right? I think I'll close off with this. I think that in order for SMS to be sold, it would have to be a significant offer, and SMS would want to leave. I think the only team he goes to is Real Madrid if he ever leaves. That's his destination.
That's his dream.
I don't think he wants to play in the EPL because, one, the lifestyle he does not like. When you're going and living in Rome and you're traveling to London, I don't think he wants to go to that. And that's why he said Real Madrid, because living in Madrid is similar to like living in Rome.
You know who that reminds me of? Lautaro. I think if and when Lautaro leaves Inter, it's going to be for Spain. I don't think he's interested, and he's already turned down Arsenal like 100 times. I don't think he's interested in going to London. I think he wants to be in Italy or Spain.
No, absolutely. I think people have to remember, like, when you commit to a team, you're not just committing to playing with them. You got to commit to that lifestyle too, and what surrounds it. I guess Lukaku is comfortable because he was with Everton, he was with Man United, so there's that familiarity with him. Whereas a guy like Martinez, Savic, they like that lifestyle where they sunny days and all that stuff. I wouldn't want to live in the UK. Sorry, it rains like 90% of the time.
All right, well, that'll do it for us. Jerry and I are going to reunite in a little under 3 hours for the Juventus season preview. So I hope the Juventini who stopped by, like Dan Keita, I saw Brooklyn Rob, a couple others I'm sure we're in who support Juventus. We're going to be talking about Juve tonight around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on the Calcio Connection podcast. So, and by the way, for those who subscribe to our Patreon page where I bring the daily doses of Inter, I'm going to make this episode, it's going to double. What we just did here is going to double as the daily dose of Inter today. So check that out. I'm going to leave this one unlocked for free. But if you guys are interested, for those who support Inter, although every Inter fan now they're jumping off bridges, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to get any new subscribers. But if you want to subscribe for daily,
Sharma.
if you want to subscribe for daily Inter content, you could do that. We're coming for Immobile. That's the comment I needed.
Come for him.
Sharma.
31 years old. I'd take 60 to 80 million for Immobile.
Well, you know what? I'd rather have that. I'd rather have that 31-year-old than the 31-year-old we're probably signing in Zapata. So, all right. So we'll talk to you guys in a few hours. Peace.
Peace. Claudio Lotito. He's going to hunt fucking Inter down.